I have much to learn from the members of this great House. I will make mistakes. I have no doubt that you will call them out for good reason.
Debates should be passionate. They should be lively. The lives of Canadians are changed by the decisions we make, and so it is normal that members get enthusiastic and fiery. When the stakes are so high, often the best thing you can do is allow the players to play a little bit.
Just a little flavor there from the House of Commons on this day one of Parliament returning. MPs are back in the House after 5 months away. We've got a ton to unpack with our front bench. Joining me this evening here from Parliament Hill is Dan Moulton. Let me just make sure I have my proper, I know you're with Crestview Strategy, former senior advisor, there we go, to the Liberal, no prompter today, guys, it's rough for everyone. Liberal Ontario government's of Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne. He's now, as I mentioned, with Crestview Strategy. Shakir Chambers is a vice president at Oyster Group. He worked in Prime Minister Stephen Harper's office before becoming a policy advisor to the International Trade Minister. Hannah Thibodeau, next to me, is of course a former news anchor. She's now an executive communications officer at Global Public Affairs. And Laura Stone rounds us out. She's a Queen's Park reporter for the Globe and Mail. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Dan, I'm going to start with you. If this, 3 to 4 weeks here in Parliament is going to be defined by one thing, after watching, today's events, what do you think it's going to be?
Well, honestly, I think Canadians sent a business-like Prime Minister to Ottawa to form a business-like government, and I think they want to get down to business, right? Like, that is what is clear to me, and I think we're going to hear that a lot tomorrow in the throne speech, is a lot of quick action to move forward an agenda that responds to the moment we're in. Canadians are feeling anxious. They're feeling anxious about the big picture, and I think they're feeling anxious still about their everyday life. And so if I'm expecting to see one thing consistently from this government, it's one that's trying to take on those macroeconomic problems to send signals to investors that this is a good place to come do business, that we can do big things and build big things. And I think a government that's going to say, we also understand the microeconomic. We understand that people are anxious about their household finances, about the safety of their communities. And I think they're going to send a lot of very clear signals over the days ahead and the weeks ahead that they're getting down to business on those things.
Yeah, the vibes, Hannah, I think Dan's absolutely right, are all about getting down to business. I'm wondering, though, about expectation setting from where you sit, right? Because it's not, to Dan's point, we're going to transform the economy at the macro level. We're going to address all your very punctuated issues at the micro level. And we're going to do it by making us the strongest economy in the G7. Like, it's a tall order. Is there any worry about setting expectations so high?
Absolutely. I think what they need to do is under-promise and over-deliver. That was Jean Chrétien's theme throughout all of his years, and I think that's what they need to take on. It is that they are building up these expectations. Solve this problem with the United States, get the tariffs taken off, rebuild the economy, also nation building. Those are huge things to get done in the next 2 weeks, really, because the House usually rises right before Canada Day. The next couple of weeks are going to be imperative for this Prime Minister to set that tone. Today was a very good day for him in setting, just the symbolism of, look, we're going to take care of what's happened with our American president and the 51st state. We're going to set that tone right away by inviting, and I was talking to Dan earlier, whoever came up with that idea of inviting the king to deliver the speech from the throne.
It was Carney's idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was all the Prime Minister.
He did it before he was even formally elected.
Exactly. Yeah. When he went over there, he went to France, he went to see the king, and all of these things, it's like, that is really forward thinking. If he continues this type of forward thinking and these types of chess moves going way ahead, like, it's not just one chessboard. I find he's actually thinking 2 chessboards ahead. And those are the types of things that he's going to have to do and continue to play that way if Canadians are going to continue to trust in what he's set out for his tone.
Yeah, Shakir, I think Hannah makes a good point about the symbolism of everything, the pomp and circumstance, the vibe check that we've been talking about. But I guess what I'm trying to get at with the question of expectations is that they imply a certain level of result. Like, if you're going to transform the economy or say that you're going to, you actually have to, and that's not easy to do. I'm wondering how you think that might inform this sitting, but even beyond.
I actually just want to see what he's going to do. I think Mark Carney needs to close the gap between his ambition and the actions to actually achieve that ambition. I've heard a lot about the vision. I saw the 7 points of the ministers. Those are all great and those are all fine. But what are you actually going to do in some concrete detail? You talk a lot about national energy projects. What are those projects that you actually care about that you're going to move forward? You talk about addressing crime. How are you specifically going to address crime? I think that's my problem. Mark Carney right now, so far, has talked a very good game, and it sounds fantastic, but I do want to see concrete actions. I'm hoping tomorrow with the throne speech, he puts some meat on those bones and tells us what he's actually going to achieve. I mean, here's a guy who, ran as a change candidate. So again, tell us some detail about what is that change that's going to be so different than what we saw from the past 10 years. Here's a guy who, as Ms. Melissa Latsman said on your interview, Pierre was criticized for being a guy all about slogans. I think for the last month, all I've heard from Mark Carney is high-level messaging and high-level slogans. Turn those slogans into substance and let us know what you're actually going to do to turn things around. And until he gets to that point, I don't see anything that he's doing that's been any different so far.
Do you anticipate that point comes sooner rather than later, Laura?
Yes, I do. I think that Prime Minister Carney is probably going to introduce one or two concrete things that he thinks he can do quickly. And I think we've seen that through your interviews today, Vashi, and other interviews you've done recently with members of the government, and an income tax cut and stripping away barriers to interprovincial trade. I think those are two things that the government is going to try to act on quickly, that they can show Canadians that they're making concrete moves. You see, I think that the stripped down language that the Liberals have presented of what their government's about, and that was symbolically contained in the mandate letter to all the ministers, which is, here are 7 key points that we're focused on. And if you're with a ministry that doesn't touch on this, well, good luck to you. But I think that it's clear that the government is going to try to move on one or two points very quickly here in the limited time that they have before the summer. Maybe they will extend into the summer, but I think the government certainly is setting expectations very high, but you can do that when you're fresh, right? And Justin Trudeau did that too, and he had very high expectations and high hopes for himself. Check in with Mr. Carney in year 3, year 4, see how that's going. But there's kind of no harm in really setting the stage high right now, I think, because the public is probably going to, and even the opposition, as we've seen maybe a bit more of a conciliatory tone from the opposition of being willing to work with the government, give them the benefit of the doubt, at least in the first few months of their mandate.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the opposition. Dan, where do you think the positioning of the government leaves opposition parties at this moment?
Well, look, I think there are certain issues that the Conservatives have performed very well on over the last few years, particularly when it comes to crime and safety and it comes to everyday affordability. They were outflanking the Liberals on those key issues, and the Liberals were the beneficiary of a moment the last few months where the conversation shifted completely to Canadian sovereignty, a crisis of our nation, really, right? And that benefited them in the election period. I think Conservatives are still stronger on those issues. And that's why it's going to be really important for the Liberals to continue to push forward an agenda that combats that and takes that directly on with the Conservatives and tries to take some of that ground away from them. The other opposition parties, certainly, the Bloc have signaled that they intend to support the government and its agenda. This is a government that won a lot of seats in Quebec, and it owes a lot of its political fortunes to the province of Quebec. So I don't think the Bloc are going to be disappointed in what they see from this government's agenda over the years ahead. And frankly, I think the New Democrats are lost right now. I don't think they know where they are or what they stand for or what their future looks like. And it's going to be challenging for them.
Yeah, good luck for, opposition parties to, vote down nation-building projects.
Exactly.
Doing things.
I don't think they will.
No,
Nobody's
exactly.
signaling that they will.
No, exactly.
Right now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, those types of things. And that's what Mr. Carney is saying to the premiers, too. You only come back to me and tell me if this is a nation-building project that you can push forward. If not, don't start asking for more, because these are what things that we're focusing on right now. Also, when it comes to, getting tariffs off from the United States, we've already heard from the Conservatives that they would agree to help in those instances. So right now, I think Mr. Carney can run this government like it is a majority, because you're not going to see the NDP go, oh, let's topple this government right now. They are in dire straits. We just heard it from Don Davies a few moments ago. They don't know when their next leader is going to be elected. They have to go to their grassroots. So, right now, the cards are in Carney's hands.
Shakir, what are your thoughts on that and your best advice to opposition parties navigating the next few weeks?
I think right now the cards are in Carney's hands for this next 4 weeks. But to be quite frank, I don't think these 4 weeks truly matter for the opposition. I think folks are really watching. What are the Liberals going to do? What is the priority legislation? How does Mark Carney run a government? How quickly does he move things forward? I think all eyes are on Carney. And I think when we get past these 4 weeks, we get into the summer months, the fall sessions where we're really going to see things hit the fan. Pierre's going to be back in Parliament. We'll see where we are with Trump and tariffs. But the most important thing is the Liberals have to produce a budget. And there are going to be high expectations that they're going to be bold and do things that, that the previous Liberal government did not do. And so we'll see where they are at that point. But I think these next 4 weeks, nobody's really paying that much attention to what the opposition parties do. If I was advising the Conservatives, the only thing I would say is what Hannah said. I think for them, listen, cooperate on things that you had in your platform, resource development, crime issues, but you're still the official opposition. You have to oppose the government on certain things. And I don't think the Canadians don't want you to oppose certain things. It's just a matter of your tone. How you do it in this context really does matter. But I think Canadians still expect you to hold the government to account and oppose where you need to oppose.
Last word to you, Laura.
Well, I mean, I'm watching for, is it really a team effort? Is everyone on board? We saw in the first couple of weeks, some ministers were, I'll say it generously, a bit off message, I think, with what Prime Minister Carney has communicated to the public and what he said his government stands for. Are you going to have ministers running their mouths about pipelines and energy projects? How is he going to bring the premiers together? We have a high stakes meeting next week in Saskatoon with all the premiers. We know that they're not all on the same page when it comes to energy or pipeline projects. How is he going to speak to them and find common ground? So I think that there's the Liberals dealing with the opposition, but there's also the Liberals dealing with themselves. And we saw maybe a bit of a rocky first week or so for Mr. Carney. Is he able to bring everyone on board and promote that message that he's trying to tell the public about how focused and determined his government truly is?
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the discussion. Our front bench, Dan Moulton, Hannah Thibodeau, Shakir Chambers, and Laura Stone.